Are you a passionate person or an activist in your community and you're having trouble maybe being taken seriously? Well, I'm going to give you some advice today on the two biggest mistakes I see passionate people like activists make online. On Black Ram TV's podcast, Gaining Ground, my name is Daniela Sagia, and I am Chief Strategist and Creative Director at Black Ram Media Group, Inc., and thank you for joining us today. Activists and passionate people are the ones that change the world. And what makes somebody an activist, what normally pushes them beyond the threshold of just being a person in the public with a strong opinion to actually becoming a change maker, is usually righteous anger. Is you just become so angry, you are compelled into action. And if it wasn't for that righteous anger, many times positive change in the world would not occur because we become afraid or self-conscious, right? So that will usually keep us from putting ourselves forward as an instrument of change. It's not until we are compelled emotionally that we will take the risks that are involved in some forms of activism, for example. So when we decide to be a change maker in our community and try to champion a cause that needs love and support, we are emotionally charged, and when we're expressing that message, sometimes it kind of gets lost in translation, especially on social media. So then what ends up happening is the very communications that you are using that is meant to grow your movement is actually undermining the movement. You're pushing people away unknowingly, and then you resent them for not giving you the support that you think is warranted, given the gravity of the cause that you're representing. So today we're going to look at the things that you might be doing that is causing that resistance. And some might even make you mad. Like I remember giving someone the next piece of advice I'm going to give you, which is why I'm qualifying it first so you're prepared. They came to me as a consultant, so paid by the hour consultant. And after doing, a thorough review of their social media and their public messaging, this piece of advice was the number one piece of advice in the top strategy. I gave them a lot of other stuff too in this report, but this was the number one. And they were angry because it was so simple. They felt like this is what I'm paying you all this money for, to tell me this. And it's a yes, because this is what's hurting you the most, even though it's simple. And instead of getting mad, be glad that the thing that's going to cause half your problems is this easy to fix. And that is checking your spelling and your grammar. When somebody is working in the nonprofit realm of whatever cause you're trying to champion, they're usually a high-level professional if they're being given the keys to the communication kingdom, which means these are communication experts and they know how to speak professionally online. They've been professionally trained. Most activists don't have the luxury of that training. And if you don't, you may want to get it for yourself as part of your own professional development, because it will save you years of anguish, right? Because when you're not professional in your communications, people don't view you as a professional. It's that simple. And especially if you have some sort of condition like dyslexia, for example, that really makes things like typos hard to spot, right? Or, simple spelling mistakes you don't mean to make, and you might not see them very easily, right? So in that situation, then you need to employ some sort of editor, be it a digital editor or some personal support from somebody who is able to proofread the stuff you write before you hit send. Because again, if you do not come across professionally, it doesn't matter how profound the statement is. If people can't read it or it's a struggle to read, people aren't going to bother. And the profoundness of what you're saying will get lost in the, wow, look at all the spelling and grammar mistakes. So it seems simple and pretty superficial to say, wow, people can't ignore a few typos and get the meaning of the thing. No, they can't. It's unfortunate. You can get angry. You could judge people, for judging you so superficially, especially if you're struggling with something that has you making spelling mistakes often, right? It's unfair but life is unfair. So if you want to be taken seriously as a professional among peers of professionals that sound polished, then you need to as well. And that may mean, getting an app. For example, now we have technology that will help you write things and edit things for you so that everything you post is impeccable. And it should be, because that just adds to the gravitas that you carry as a passionate person when you're able to be passionate and eloquent. Now you become effective as a change maker, as opposed to just passionate but unable to express yourself in a way that inspires other people. And just getting, cleaning up the grammar and cleaning up the spelling will work wonders for how you're perceived online. Now, the next thing is a little more complex, but definitely a major issue among passionate people like activists. There are a lot of people that work in the nonprofit sector that are very passionate about what they do, but it's still a job, and because it's a job, they are governed by the limitations of their employment contract, which means certain behaviors would never be permitted, and they know this. So when they're communicating online, they're careful, and they know better than to lash out or say certain things or behave in a certain way, because they don't want to get called into HR's office or the board of directors' office. So, they tend to govern themselves accordingly. Someone who is either self-employed or an activist has the liberty to do and say whatever they want with very little repercussions beyond the cancel culture world that we live in. But nobody's going to fire you. You might lose some customers, but no one's going to fire you. And that gives you this liberty to feel like you can say whatever you want. And on one hand, sure, you're able to push the envelope on many things, and that's true. However, if you want to be respected and welcomed and, able to be part of the club of whatever cause you're trying to champion, then you need to be palatable to that cohort. So if you are someone who gets emotionally charged and post when they're emotionally charged, what is to you passion, to other people will be perceived as instability. And then that you can't be trusted. So let me give you an example. If you're someone who is very supportive to people that you think are doing the right thing, and you'll go the extra mile to, promote them and to work on their campaigns or to share their stuff, and you're really supportive, talk about them whenever you can. But if they make a decision that you disagree with in your ideology, you'll be the first to lash out at them online, cut them off, block them, and you give as much energy to destroying them as you did to building them up. If you're that personality, and people have seen this throughout the years, that every once in a while you burn bridges or you cut ties with people you used to be very close with, and you have that tendency to hate people after a while, or, like I said, you cause conflict. So maybe your relationships, professional ones, don't last very long and they tend to end in a very negative way. And you have a tendency maybe to play victim when that happens. So it's everybody's fault but your own. Well, people will start to see that, to say, everybody can't be bad or wrong. So maybe it's not actually everybody else, but it's this person. Because how come the people they love the most, they end up having conflict with eventually? They never keep anybody in their life in a positive way professionally. And so they won't trust you. So then you may want to partner with someone and only want to help because you think they're wonderful. They're going to say to you, yeah, you love me today, but any minute I could do something, and as soon as you become an enemy, you're a serious enemy. So I'm not going to let you close to me to give you an opportunity to do that to me one day. I would rather not have the short-term help than deal with the long-term damage you might cause me. And that's something that we don't see, how we alienate people, with that behavior. It doesn't matter whether or not the people you're trashing online deserve it or they don't, right? And the other thing is, you might post every once in a while happy things. Oh, the sky is beautiful today. What a positive. We could all be positive for change and yay for the world or whatever. And then in the next breath, I'm sick of it all. I can't take it anymore. People don't deserve me, or life sucks, or no one understands. And you start with those kind of rants. So now they're like, okay, so this person goes from one extreme to the other. So they're really emotionally unstable because they seem to be a roller coaster, right? So now that kind of makes people a little wary. And if you tend to post vague things, so let's say somebody does something to you and you can't say it to their face. So you'll go online and you'll write something that is vague. It's you're directed at one person because they're going to see it on your Facebook, you know what I mean? But it might apply to 15, 20 people maybe, but it won't apply to 80, 90% of the people that read it. Any post that falls in that category is equally problematic, because the people that maybe do engage in that behavior a little bit will assume you're talking about them even if you're not, and they will be instantly offended by what you say. Or, God, even worse, people that don't apply to this is going to read that and say, why is he saying this? I never did that to him. So when you're posting on social media, you can't use Facebook or Instagram, whatever, as a substitute for one-on-one honest conversation, honest, uncomfortable conversation. Social media is used when you want to talk to the collective, everybody. Even if it's a personal post, you want everybody to read it. And keep that in mind before you send it. So if your post is really just applying to one person that annoyed you, don't send it. And don't write when you're angry. Don't write when you're upset or triggered, because that's going to come across in the post. And it won't come across in an effective way. And you have to remember that the whole point of communication is to convey something, or to, encourage somebody to feel or think a certain way. So if you're not able to actually reach them with your message, either because it seems incoherent or not believable or credible, or whether it's over emotional, all of those things kind of impede the whole purpose of you conveying the message in the first place. So if if the point of reaching people is to touch their hearts, but instead your behavior is having them unfollow you, well, then it kind of defeats the purpose. And there's something else that you have to remember too when it comes to your audience, because you're going to have people in your audience that love the behavior that actually is undermining your message, because they find it entertaining. So every time you go off on someone, every time you have a rant, they love that. They love that. But are these the same people, as much as they're giving you rah, 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 and, cheering you on, and you tell them the way it is, are those people your actual donors? Like, are they donating to your cause? Are they volunteering for you? Are they actually contributing? Or are they just entertained by you? Because if all they are is entertained by you, that's not helpful to your cause at all. It's helpful to them, and they're using you as their own form of entertainment, but they're not being inspired by you. They're being entertained by you. It's really important to know that, and to really take that in, as painful as it is. Because then you have to say, okay, so these are the only people that are really following and engaging with my posts, and that's not going to help change the parts of society I'm trying to change here. So maybe I need to stop writing with them in mind, and instead think, who am I trying to reach with this post? Who exactly? Is it executives in the nonprofit sector? Is it politicians I'm hoping will read this? Who is it that is going to read this stuff, that I need to read the stuff that I need? And if I were to face them on the street, if I were to walk in their office this minute, and I was face to face with them, what would I say and how would it sound like? That's how you write. And believe me, those will be two very different messages. So stop being people's entertainment and instead be people's hero. But in order to do that, you have to act like one with the professionalism of one. You can't be unprofessional or act unprofessionally and then expect people to treat you as a professional or to give you that respect as an expert in the field if you don't sound and come across like an expert. You can't have people or expect people to take you seriously in terms of the energetic you're projecting if the energetic you're projecting isn't serious but instead appears unstable. So just remember that you could be the most well-adjusted, chipper person on the planet, and maybe you only get angry twice a week, and you only post angry things twice a week, 90% of it's really positive. People are only going to remember the rants. They'll ignore the rest. And because your fan club that's not helpful is commenting and engaging on those posts, the algorithm's going to make sure that those are the posts everybody sees, not the "this is what I had for lunch and I love my mom" post. So it's really important that what you give Facebook and your audience on Facebook is consistency. Because if you're all over the place, that's how people will perceive you as a person. And whether that's right or wrong is irrelevant. The effect it's going to have on you or your cause is going to be negative. So just doing those two simple things, maintaining emotional equilibrium in your posts, and you know what, in life most especially, because if you have a tendency to be reactive, that's usually not a personality thing, eh? Even though not wanting to change your, spelling, some people get very defensive to say, I make spelling mistakes, so what? I have this issue that causes me to make a lot of typos. Deal with it. It's not helpful, especially when we have technology that could easily help you with that. But even with the emotional equilibrium stuff in life, a lot of people will say to me when they come to me, for example, they'll say, I've been accused of this. They accuse me of being a roller coaster. I don't feel that I am, but this is how the public perceives me. My family keeps mentioning my Facebook posts. I don't want to be censored. I hear this is the big one. I don't want to be censored. And I don't want to be pretend that to be somebody I'm not. I want to be honest on social media. I don't want to be fake, but my family is telling me, my friends are telling me I should stop posting the way I'm posting on social. And, help me with that without losing my personal integrity. And usually when I say, well, you're very emotionally reactive, if you just took the reactiveness out, nothing else about you has to change. If you were just the emotional, have some emotional equilibrium, so the exact same you with the exact same beliefs, just add a bit of emotional equilibrium to the equation, everything is, changes for you without you having to change at all. And their response always is, that's my personality. And I can tell you it is not. It is not. What that is a reaction to cortisol. So you were probably someone who at some point in your life lived with trauma, an extended trauma, where your body felt like you were under attack, or your brain felt that you were under attack a lot of the time. And when you're under attack, your body releases cortisol. It's that thing that flushes all other stuff out of your thought process, including context and nuance, by the way, and makes you make a very rash and quick decision to think, should I run from the threat or should I fight it? And that's what gives you the impulse to do either. Or people will say, when people survive something and they, let's say, fight against an attacker and they win, and people say, wow, were you trained in martial arts? And they'll say, no, I don't even remember what happened. All of a sudden, it happened so fast and boom. Well, that was cortisol that gave them the drive to do the thing. And whenever your body feels you're under attack, it releases cortisol, whether you're under attack or not. And someone who's traumatized tends to be a bit of a drunkard on cortisol, right? Because your body's always releasing it. So if someone, it says a mean thing to you, cortisol. You read an article you don't like, cortisol. So your body's just constantly giving you cortisol, which means you're not thinking about nuance. You're not looking at different sides of the story on a thing, right? You're not, really rationally looking at something. You're looking at something in fight or flight mode, which is very different than looking at something analytically. So if you're someone who tends to feel that impulse, I need to post something right now, right? So this is when you'll make all your spelling mistakes because you're full of cortisol, you're not thinking analytically, you're not thinking on different angles, and you're typing faster than, or your typing isn't as fast as your brain. So you're typing like crazy, and that's why you're making all those mistakes. You're not taking the time to proofread, and what if I put this before that and change this word here and put the comma there? Let me check the tone. Let me get the emotion words out of it. Let me make sure I'm factually accurate and I can back up what I'm saying. Let me make sure it's diplomatic. It can still be cutting, but diplomatic. You don't do that when you're writing with cortisol. When you're writing under the influence of cortisol, it's verbal diarrhea. So your messages will tend to be long, incoherent, out of order. They might all be true. Everything you're saying is probably true, and you're probably right even to be angry. But the problem is it's not going to come out eloquently. So then when you post it, and that impulse to hit publish before you actually proofread what you wrote, that's what gets you in trouble. And it's not your personality. Like I said, it's cortisol. This is a trauma response that you've created as a pattern in your brain or your behavior. So it could easily be reversed or replaced. You just need a new operating system, right? And that comes with a lot of personal training. You can get hypnosis to help you with this. YouTube has lots of free ones. And the trick is that impulse to recognize it. When you feel it, I gotta post right, lash out right now. When you feel that, say, that's not really my personality. That's not necessarily the right thing to do. This impulse is cortisol. So let me take a deep breath. Let me go for a walk around the block. Let me write the angry draft, but not hit send, and then let me go back to it tomorrow. Because if I'm feeling an impulse, that's probably a self-sabotaging lie. It's not really that I have to post right now. That's part of my issue. And then the next day, go back and re-edit and tweak it. And like I said, take the emotional words out, take the exaggerations out, make sure everything's written in the right order and coherent, check the spelling and grammar, and then wait another few hours, and then maybe hit send. Maybe. But I always try to say, is this post necessary? Or am I just contributing to the toxic noise that's on social media? Is this post necessary? Can it be effective? Will it do what I need it to do at the end of the day? And if the answer is no, I won't submit. I'll go with, the world doesn't need my statement on every single thing ever. I am not the news body of the world. I'm not the social commentator of the planet or of society. I may, from time to time, feel compelled to say something, but I really put it through several filters now before I do. Now, if you have caught yourself in this behavior and you're thinking, oh no, I've got work to do, don't dismay. This doesn't count you out because you've made this mistake up until now. Because, the public is forgiving. It takes a while, but it is forgiving. So if you stop that now, so all that bad behavior, if you stop it now and instead start being more productive with your posts, more polished with your posts, people will start to perceive you in a different way. And with time, you will start to undo some of the, misperceptions people have had of you. And they'll say, well, maybe they used to be that way, but they've really changed or they've grown up. And that will become evident with your audience, allowing them to see you evolve and, get better and grow as a professional. And that will benefit you greatly, actually. You'll score more points because it didn't come easy to you. People will have seen you work hard to improve. And that, everybody loves that kind of story. So people will get behind you when they see you do good, positive things. And that's our conversation for the day. If there's anything you would like me to cover on these, feel free to reach out at Daniela, Daniela, at blackrammedia.com. Go get them.